Hello and welcome back to the Decaf Bubble podcast with me, Abby. In today's episode, I am talking about how to get shit done. More specifically, how I get shit done as a creative freelancer, as somebody who is very multi-passionate, multi-hyphenate, is that the word? Highly sensitive, one of those typical creative brains who can be a little bit all over the place, pulled in many directions, like full of ideas, all of that stuff. If that sounds like you will probably relate to the things I'm going to talk about. If not, then this probably will be terrible advice for you, so don't listen to it. I think it can be helpful to separate the creative process roughly into two categories, into two sides of the coin. So on the one side, you have this kind of very free, expansive, open part of the creative process, which is where we play and ideate and come up with ideas and brainstorm. And, that's the part that's very expansive. It's connecting with potential and, thinking outside the box and all of that side. And then there's the other side, which is closing the loop, closing that openness, following through on something in order to bring it into tangible reality, like bringing it down from the ethers into the physical. This part requires focus and willpower and follow through and discipline and all of these other qualities. And so what I've noticed is that the more somebody is kind of connected to their feminine energy and their expansiveness and their playfulness and their infinite idea side, often the harder it is for that person to do the getting shit done part, like the closing the loop, the finishing tasks, and the staying with something long enough for it to be physically realized, as opposed to just a sense of potential. And so I'm very passionate about finding ways for people who are like that, like me, who have loads of ideas, don't honestly really have any issues with the idea side. Creative block for us isn't about, I don't have any ideas. It's actually more about I have so many ideas, I don't even know where to begin, and I'm getting into a freeze state because there's just so much potential. And so, finding ways for people like that, for people like me to be able to finish things, I'm passionate about that. So that's what I'm talking about in today's episode. I'm just drawing from my own experience as a creative freelancer. I'm somebody who has managed to get a lot of shit done, despite being, challenged in some ways in that respect. I have been running my own business for 2.5 years. I have this podcast. I've also had a lot of different creative jobs, different engagements where I'm being paid to write or direct or compose, and I've had deadlines for other people, and I've also brought certain projects of my own to completion where it's my own creative heart on the line. So I also want to add, because I kind of wish somebody else had spelled this out for me when I was younger. This might sound really obvious, but finishing tasks is a skill. It's something you get better at the more you do it. It's like a muscle that gets stronger the more that you practice it. But then on top of that, finishing creative tasks, there's this added dimension where it's vulnerable. Creativity is vulnerable. So you're not just pushing against the difficulty of the task, you're also pushing against the difficulty of being seen and being exposed by your creative expression, which is an extension of you. And often we take that really personally because we see our creativity as something very personal to us, right? So finishing creative tasks, there's that added dimension. And it's even harder when it's something that's super personal to you, as in it's your business or it's your project. I have been in creative situations where I'm being essentially commissioned to do something, write a script specifically for a youth theatre, or create the sound design for somebody else's play. And that is still a vulnerable act, but it's a lot less vulnerable than if it's like your play, your vision. When I'm writing a script for a youth theatre, the subject matter isn't about me. Whereas when I was like writing my solo show, for example, it was incredibly personal subject matter. It was essentially like sharing my deepest feelings and thoughts with the world. And I was like wondering why it was harder. Like, why is this so much harder, you know? And it's like, this is why it sounds obvious, but it actually, we just need that reminder that things are gonna get more and more difficult the more that your creative heart is like being exposed, essentially. And like, that's something that we build tolerance for through experience. And I think people often say this advice, like, when you're building a business, your business isn't you, like, don't take it so personally. And it's like, yeah, it's true, but you can't rush that process. You actually have to learn that slowly through doing it. When you're starting out, it does feel incredibly vulnerable, and you do feel incredibly exposed because it's just you putting yourself out there, hoping people like what you have to say. And so that is adding a huge level of difficulty just to the finishing the task aspect. So all this to say, you know, be easy on yourself, and hopefully my tips will help deal with some of this. I recorded these yesterday. I'm just re-recording this intro now because there were kind of some more things that I wanted to say to set up my tips better that I'm going to share. So I share 3 tips with you. The first 2 are kind of more on the mindset side, and the last one is more of a practical tip. And the reason it's mindset heavy is because I actually think if we can get the mindset right, like, the practical side will sort of fall into place more easily. So that's why we're focusing on the mindset. As I said, this is just my way of doing things. Some people might consider this quite unhinged, but if it helps you, then I'm glad. And I hope it does. But anyway, let's get into the tips now. Okay, so the first tip that I want to share with you is to de-shamify the way that you're already getting shit done. This is such a big one. The reason I start with this is because I'm willing to bet that you are already somebody who gets shit done every single day. You're managing to achieve certain things and certain tasks, and it's quite likely, if you've grown up in this culture and this society, you've been conditioned to see a lot of the ways that you get things done as wrong, and that you just need to like find the right way of doing these things. So the reason I feel like this is so powerful is because so much of the thing like that holds us back is shame and this like nagging sense that we're like not enough or like not doing things the right way. So you've probably heard me saying this before, talking about this before, like, just make your way the best way. Like, but it kind of takes this process of identifying and getting really clear on the ways that you're naturally doing things, and then just de-shamifying them. Because even if they need to change, like, even if they're causing you suffering in some way, you're not going to change them through making yourself wrong. You're going to change them through like neutralizing towards how you're doing things, and then like gradually improving it. But also, if you neutralize towards the way that you're doing things and you don't see anything as wrong, then you realize that a lot of these ways aren't even wrong. And the only thing that's wrong about them, or the only suffering that's coming out of it, is the idea that it's wrong. So I'm just going to give you some examples from my own life, because I just have so many of these things. Like, a big thing for me was like leaving things till the last minute. I've always done that. And, you know, ever since I was at school, uni, like handing in assignments, everything, I used to feel like I was so lazy, or like there was just something wrong with me, that I would just like put it off and procrastinate. But once I started neutralizing to that, I realized there was actually this kind of really cool rhythm to like waiting it out until the right moment. And obviously I'm not saying that it always functions perfectly, but what I realized when I stopped fighting against that was like, if I do just like do a lot of nothing, then my subconscious does a lot of work for me on the thing. And when I really started to harness this was when I was working in youth theatre a lot and writing a lot of scripts. And at first I used to feel bad because, you know, each week I would be paid a certain amount of time just to write, and sometimes I just wouldn't use that time to write. I would just, you know, be doing other things, and I kind of felt guilty because I was like, oh, I'm not writing, like I'm being paid to write and I'm not writing. But the truth is my brain was working on it subconsciously, and also, you know, the process with the group, like because I was going in and facilitating workshops each week to create that material, and the time just wasn't right yet to turn that into words. And then something would happen, you know, I would get this impulse that I would feel. And I think the reason I would start noticing those moments or those impulses is because I wasn't making this wrong. I took the shame piece out and I just let myself like flow and be present with what was happening. And the more I did that, I would feel that moment where it's like, oh my God, yes, now it's crystallizing and the thing is coming to me. And sometimes it would even come in a dream. Like I would have a dream with like a sick idea and it was just the best answer. And then I would just quickly write the thing up, and, you know, it would just be exactly what it needed to be, at least for that draft or whatever. So that really taught me that my process is not all about doing, it's a lot about being. And so leaving things to the last minute isn't always, you know, it's not just laziness, like it's actually a type of wisdom. Another example is like having days where I don't achieve really anything, and then other days having highly, highly productive days, like where I get so much done. And I used to feel like this was wrong because I need to like balance it out more. I need to spread out the tasks more evenly. But again, the way that my energy was naturally working was in a cyclical way. And so there would be days when I just couldn't do anything. And honestly, I would get into this like shame spiral because I felt like I wasn't being productive. And I still deal with this now. I'm not saying I'm like completely past this, but I'm able to recognize a lot more now that like my nature just is very cyclical and I need those long periods of just downtime. And then I suddenly bounce back. Also, I'm a human design projector, so this is also, you know, how projectors often work as well. So if you really want to maximize this tip, I would say go through your own routine, like your kind of average day at the moment, or your average week or your average month, whatever, and go through and see how many judgments you have about the way that you're already getting things done. Like, I scroll too much first thing in the morning, or it's really bad that, you know, my productivity period starts at 11 p.m. at night, or whatever it is that you feel is like wrong and you need to fix, and like it would be better if you did X, Y, or Z. And just write all of those judgments down, and then kind of go through each one and be like, oh, what if this is just like how I do it? Like, what if this is just my process? How can you romanticize that? How can you make it something cool and unique and interesting about you, as opposed to some way in which you're not meeting whatever standard has been conditioned into you as the correct way to be? It's honestly astonishing how many things hold us back because we think we have to do it in that way. Like, another small example for me is like, I only really was able to get consistent with my podcast when I allowed myself to just record it on my phone, as opposed to like setting up a microphone and like running it through Logic and editing it loads. For me, it's just way easier to pick up my phone and just talk into my voice memos app and just share that. And like, I rarely edit it. Sometimes I do edit things, but the majority of the time I don't even edit it. So, you know, you could say, oh, that's wrong, that's not the right process for a podcast. But it's like, well, it is the process for me. Like, that's how I get it out. That's, and it doesn't mean that it's like the best it will ever be. Maybe one day I can afford to pay an editor or some shit, I don't know, but for now, like, it's getting done. So I think that's the point, is like, just be present with how you are now, with where you are now, and just get things done in the way that you can get them done now. And just de-shamify it. Just pour love and compassion and acceptance and like validation. Like, imagine you have the power to validate everything about your life, and this definitely takes practice, but it really does change your life if you can start seeing all of these things about you as just like cool little funny quirky things about you as opposed to like, I'm fucking everything up. My second tip is lower the bar. Just always lower the bar. And I've been talking about this a lot recently because I did a workshop on perfectionism inside the bubble, and I was talking about my definition of perfectionism. The way perfectionism manifests for me is having really high expectations or standards coupled with a lower capacity or ability in that moment than is possible to achieve that high standard. So you get frozen because your standard is so high and your capacity or ability in that moment is so low, and then you just feel like you can't do anything. I think with creative types, with creative brains, especially, highly sensitive, all of that, we can have such a broad connection to potential and possibility. We escalate things so quickly to their highest potential. So then we're like living with this like awareness of like what something could be, and that turns into an expectation that it needs to be that in order to be like valid. And we start judging our early attempts, or we start judging our actions that we're taking now against this highest potential. And to me, like, we just have to lower the bar. Constantly lower the bar. If you're somebody who has incredibly high standards and you're a deep thinker and you overthink things, just keep lowering the bar. So examples of this for me, like the other day, ironically, before I was leading the perfectionism workshop, I had, this is perfect. I had literally left it last minute to plan the workshop. And then I sat down, I had like 6 hours or something before it was starting. And I immediately felt that freeze coming into my body of like, everything I'm thinking is like, this is not working. Like, I'm getting overwhelmed and the deadline feels suddenly really constrictive. And I realized what I was doing was thinking that I had to deliver the be-all end-all workshop on perfectionism that's going to cure perfectionism forever and is like going to be like the best workshop that anyone's ever taken. And then I just realized that, and I was like, oh, okay, let me lower the bar to, I just have to plan and deliver a workshop. Like, it doesn't even have to be good. It just has to be an acceptable level workshop. And that's what I did. And it actually went really well. These things, of course, they always go well when you relax and just enjoy them and you're just present. But the only reason that I was able to do it was because I took the pressure off for it to be good and just decided I'm allowed to just deliver a workshop. It doesn't have to be amazing. Another example of how I lower the bar, and there is a part of me that hates this, but it works. I'm telling you, it works. Even though there's a part of me that like just does not even understand the logic of this. I have like a list of tasks that need to get done, maybe that week. And there's a part of my brain that's like, okay, cool. A reasonable amount of tasks to achieve in one day is like 6. So then I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do 1. Let's just do 1. And often they're quite chunky tasks. So like record a podcast, for example, or like, I don't know, plan a workshop or deliver a workshop or schedule dates for next month in the bubble or whatever it is. But because of, I don't know why, but the way my brain is like, oh yeah, we could definitely achieve like 6 things today. But I've learned to not trust that impulse. I've learned to trust the impulse that's like, let's just get one thing done today. Because achieving one thing every day for a week actually gets a lot done. And again, I know, if you're hearing this and being like, that's just not going to work for me, I have too many things to do. I agree, like a part of me agrees. I'm like, yeah, that sounds ridiculous. But the reason that it works is literally because there's no rush. There's no rush. This only works if you believe me that there's no rush and you are like interested in living the decaf life where there's no rush and there's no deadline. And I'm speaking quite specifically here to like, if you have a business, or maybe say you're writing a novel, or you're working on a solo show, or you're working on an album, just any solo project where it's more or less you holding yourself accountable. Because yeah, if you have a deadline, you have a deadline. But if you're trying to get a creative project or a business off the ground and there really sincerely is no deadline, there's just like the desire for it to grow, trust me when I say your nervous system will function better if you don't feel like there's any rush. You don't need to achieve this thing. You don't need to achieve greatness by X age or by X time or whatever. There's like a magical paradox of taking the pressure off something to not have to grow fast, but then also showing up for it in a really like committed way. The effect of that is so cool. Like, it's so cool to see. I don't even know how it works, but somehow you get to the end of the week or you get to the end of the month and you look back and you're like, wow, I actually did achieve a lot this month just through that consistency and through the momentum. So lower the bar to something that feels like truly easy within your capacity, within your current time and skill and everything, resources. Lower it way down, and then just stay super consistent as much as you can, and you will get a lot of shit done. You just will. That's how I get shit done. Okay, my final tip is, as promised, this one's a bit more tangible and practical rather than mindset, but I recently got a whiteboard. I don't know if I've mentioned this already. I can't remember where I've mentioned this, but I do want to preach about whiteboards because they really are everything they're cracked up to be. I got this whiteboard. I was thinking about it for a while. I had this like limiting belief in my head that my bedroom has to be totally zen and have nothing in it that like disturbs your peace. And so I just like have kept my room so neutral and kind of hid away any evidence that I'm working. But the truth is, my bedroom is my office. It's where I do most of my work from, sitting on my bed like a true projector. I don't even have a desk. My room is quite small. I take all my Zoom calls from the floor. But the point is, I resisted getting a whiteboard for so long because I was like, oh, but it's going to disturb my sleep and my zen. It has not disturbed my sleep. If anything, it's made me wake up with less anxiety because I wake up in the morning and I see my whiteboard and I see what I have to do that day or like what I have scheduled or whatever. And it feels good. It feels like it situates me in the week. It's like, oh, what day is it? Thursday. Okay, cool. I see where I am. You know, a lot of anxiety for me comes around like feeling untethered and not really like sure what's going on or like what I need to be doing. Or so having things in sight, in plain sight, really help anchor me. And I can't believe how long I followed this lie that like my bedroom has to be the zen space. Obviously one day, you know, I'll have an office, I'll have a desk. That'll be wonderful, and then my bedroom will just be like a zen space. But for now I have to really make things work for what they are. And I love having visual cues, visual reminders of like what I need to be doing. So I do use physical planners as well. I have my planner that I write everything down by hand, but what I've realized is I don't reach for that like enough for it to kind of keep me on track in the same way. So having everything, the way I do it is I have a whiteboard, I split it into half, and then on one half I just have like blank space where I can just like write reminders and memos and lists and things that I need. And then the other half I divide it into 7, and I have like a spread of the week, like a 7-day week calendar, which I obviously update every week. And at the end of the week, I write everything from the week down into my planner, so I have a record of it. This is just a task that I like to do, again, because it anchors me, it kind of situates me, it helps me track progress. I really feel like a big thing for creative brains is just like keeping track of stuff and remembering things. Like, it's so often I'll talk to people and they'll be like, oh, I just don't feel like I'm achieving enough. And it's like, well, are you tracking and appreciating the efforts you're making and the milestones you're hitting, even if they're like small milestones? Or are you even noticing the milestones because you're not really tracking things? And so tracking and just keeping track of things and just having visual cues and reminders, that is a massive part of how I get shit done, because it gives me structure, it fuels me because I can see the progress that I'm making. Like, there's just so many reasons that it's really, really helped me to have all of that on a whiteboard and not like in a planner in a drawer somewhere. My main point is just find something, keep trying different ways of organizing until you find the one that truly works the best for you and has like the maximum return on investment, like the least effort for the most benefit. All right, those are my 3 tips. I hope they're helpful. I do kind of have a 4th bonus tip, which is me talking about the bubble now, the bubble membership, because I do think a massive part of how I get shit done is having community. It's having people around me that are also working on things that I can talk to about little issues that I can share my wins with. So I feel like as creatives, you know, one of the biggest assets we can have is a community and some accountability and somewhere to share what we're working on and just be together in that process. And that is why I created The Bubble. The Bubble is an online community for artists. I've been talking a lot about what we do in The Bubble recently because the doors are closing at the end of March, and I'm currently enrolling new members. So today I will just tell you a little bit about the creative workshop series that I'm doing at the moment, which is looking at specific creative blocks. So we've just done, as I mentioned, a workshop on perfectionism. It was like a deep exploration into everyone's own relationship with perfectionism, because I think it does show up very differently for different people. And we came up with a lot of really interesting tips for working with perfectionism and dealing with it and working through it. So that was really beautiful. Next month for April, we're going to be looking at competition and deconditioning that sense of competition and scarcity that a lot of artists feel, especially women. I think we've been so conditioned to see each other as competition and compare ourselves to each other a lot. So that's what we're going to be exploring in that workshop. If you want to learn more about the other events, the kinds of workshops and sharing circles and things that we do inside the Bubble membership, then you can go to decafbubble.com/bubble. There is currently just over a week left to join at the moment because the doors are closing on the 31st of March. And there is currently a deal on to celebrate the Bubble's first birthday, which was the 1st of March. And that is, you can use the code BIRTHDAY to get 50% off your first month. So go ahead to decafbubble.com/bubble, check that out, see if it's a community that you want to be a part of. if you have creative shit that you want to get done and you just want support and some accountability and some community. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Sending you so much love and speak to you soon. Bye.